Hi, I'm here today with Maile Meloy. She has written a great new children's book called The Apothecary, and she is previously known for her adult works, but this is your first entree into writing for young adult readers.
It is.
I have to say that Penguin sent me an early copy of the book, and I've been anxiously awaiting its release, full of magical potions and everything else. So it's very exciting. But I read it and loved it. My 14-year-old daughter absolutely loved it. And it's a wonderfully entertaining story set in the 1950s. And the Scott family moved from Los Angeles to London and enter an apothecary, a magical book, this mixture of magic and science, and the whole world just sort of takes a whole new meaning. Tell us a little bit more about the story itself.
It's sort of a Cold War spy novel with kids and magic, but the magic, as you said, is sort of akin to science. It has to be learned. It's a girl who doesn't want to leave Los Angeles. She has to move to London with her family, and so it's about a girl finding a new life. It's about a boy, the apothecary's son, who doesn't want to be an apothecary. He wants to be a spy, so it's about him sort of confronting his destiny. And the apothecary isn't a normal apothecary. He has this plan to save the world from nuclear war. So.
Yes, spies, nuclear threats, disappearing magic, science. It's sort of all in there. Where did you come up with this? I mean, was this some wild dream? How did you come up with a plot like this?
I had written 4 books for adults, and I had just finished the last one, which is both ways is the only way I want it. And I'm not the kind of writer who immediately starts a new book. I always have to kind of look around and figure out what I'm going to do next. And some friends of mine who are filmmakers and who are sort of prodigiously creative and always have about 12 ideas going came to me and said, "We think you should write a novel about a mysterious apothecary in the 50s. And I said, okay. And I started, and
what kind of friends do you have that do
I know, they're great.
magical apothecary?
They're great friends, and there are those things that happen that set you on a different course in life, and you think if I hadn't been there at that moment, that wouldn't have happened, and that was sort of the case with this. I think it opened up something creatively in my brain that I wasn't using. I wrote the first draft really quickly, partly because it was this entirely new thing and there was no pressure, and I didn't know what the rules were for writing kids' books, and I felt like I was along on the adventure. And then I went back and it became sort of the hard work of writing a novel. But it's been just a pleasure from start to finish. And they don't send out little bottles of glitter with adult books.
Not yet, maybe, if they see it work. And you'll find, I'm sure, in bookstores an interesting lineup for you for signings now, as you have your 2 sets of kids and adults.
I have. It's been really interesting. It came out in Australia first, and so I did my first book events there, and I would have the whole family. I would have the grandmother and the mother and the grandson all getting different books signed, and that's been really fun, really exciting.
Well, I hear you're hard at work on the sequel. Do you have any foreshadowing or secret plots that you can share?
Well, I found that Janie, the character in the book, really likes her parents, and I wanted to have good parents in the book, but I found that kids' parents are really a hassle when you're writing an adventure story because you have to keep getting the kids' parents out of the way. So Janie's in boarding school so that I don't have to deal with the parents.
I think those parents go away. Yes. You could have had them disappear with some potion or something.
I've been talking to kids, and one of them said, "Why don't you just kill them off? Why isn't she an orphan?"
A little harsh, right?
Yeah.
Harsh critics.
I like the parents. I want to keep them around, just at a distance.
Well, I know that your brother also is the lead singer of the Decemberists, yes, and also has a children's book. I haven't read it yet, coming out or about to come out. How did you grow up that you have this creative string here? And I also read a little bit about this Books for Bikes program that I want you to comment on.
We were big readers. We didn't have a TV. Our mom didn't have a TV, and our dad didn't have service at his house, so we read a lot.
Had the TV but no service?
Yes, exactly. We had early HBO and weren't allowed to watch it during the day. So we read a lot, and we ran around outside a lot. We are from Montana, so there was a lot of kind of freedom as a kid.
Apothecaries?
No apothecaries. I never knew one. And I read a lot, but I was reading a lot of Trixie Belden detective novels, which my stepmother had given me, and my grandmother thought that I should be reading something more edifying. So when I wanted a 10-speed bike, my father made me a deal that I could have a bike if I read 10 classic novels and wrote reports on them. So, so I did that.
It all starts.
And then I went back to, reading the other books that I liked and the rest of the Trixie Beldens. And I think actually Janie owes something to Trixie Belden, to that kind of the kid detectives figuring stuff out.
Well, the cover itself is beautiful,
So
and the
beautiful.
illustrations in the book. Did you have any hand in approving or looking at the design?
I'd always been told, I had put little pictures in the manuscript that built suspense about something that was going to happen in that chapter, and so they asked if I wanted to have it illustrated, and I said yes. And Cecilia Young, who's the art director, was so wonderful letting me be involved in the whole process. She suggested illustrators, she let me choose Jan Schoner, who did the wonderful illustrations. And then they showed me sketches all along the way, and so I was able to suggest things. He chose moments from the book. I was limited by what I could find a picture of on the internet, but he could illustrate scenes, and the illustrations wrap around the pages. And there was one illustration he drew that was better than what I had described in the book, so I went back and changed the book to match what he had drawn. It was really fun.
That's
and
a collaborative
and
effort.
great, which is how it should be, I think.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Any advice to aspiring writers now? You're going to have very successful books in various genres. Any advice that you would have as you started out?
Read all you can and write all you can is I really think it just takes practice, just the way the way playing an instrument does.
Reward yourself with the bike?
Yes, bribe yourself. Promise yourself something at the end. I think that works. And also the way I wrote the first draft of this and the way I wrote my first books, without self-consciousness, without worrying about someone expecting it from you, or about worrying with whether it's good or bad, and just kind of writing. I was writing to entertain myself and my friend's 9-year-old, and my friends who were my usual adult readers, and I think that's the way to do it.
You did, because it's both suspenseful, and there are parts where you do find yourself laughing out loud over certain pieces. So I think you did very much accomplish that. So it's a really wonderful story, and look forward to the sequel. And
Me too.
We'll see what happens. Do you feel any additional pressure as books get released and then are successful? Let's say this one, and then you have the sequel. Do you find that pressure building up, or can you write with that clean slate to entertain for yourself? Does it get harder or easier as you become successful as a writer?
I think it gets harder. I wrote my first 2 books before the first one came out, and I think that was a good place to be. It's a kind of a protected space, and this was similar because I hadn't written for kids before. The first group of kids I would talk to had all been given advance copies, and their big question was, when does the sequel come out? And if this one comes out October 4th, 2011, does the sequel come out October 4th, 2012? And that made me really feel like I have to go home and start writing.
And kids remember the date you give them too.
Yeah.
They will not let you push it off. It'll be much harder than an agent coming after you.
I really love that. You don't have adult readers fixating on release dates like that.
No. Well, thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to the success of this book.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Thanks.